Good night, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back again. Today, I'll be looking at the 2012 NFL Draft. Again, this will be similar to the one I did yesterday about the 2011 NFL Draft. We'll be looking at the 5 last players selected and how did their NFL career turns out. And then at the end, we will look and see who out of those 5 has the best career. So we're going to start off with the 5th last pick. Travian Robertson, defensive tackle out of South Carolina. First of all, Mr. Robertson is 31 years old. He was born in Laurinburg, North Carolina. He is 6'4" and weighed 304 pounds. He went to Laurinburg Scotland High School and went to school at South Carolina. Now for his college career. As a true freshman in 2007, he played in all 12 games, and he was the only true freshman to start in the season opener against Louisiana Lafayette. For the season, he was credited with 7 tackles, including 4 solo, a pass deflection, and a quarterback carry. In his sophomore season, he played in all 13 games, recording 17 tackles, including 2 TFLs. He had a career high 6 tackles, including tackle for loss against Clemson, which is a very good team, so that's good there. Then into his junior season, he suffered a season-ending right knee injury against Ole Miss. He then had a medical redshirt season, so he had another year of eligibility. In his final year in 2010, his second last year, he started all 14 games, had 42 tackles, including 10 for loss and 4 sacks. He had 5 stops in 2010 Chick-fil-A Bowl against Florida State. In his final year, when his 5th year as a 5th-year senior, he had 45 tackles, 24 of those for loss, and 8 sacks on his professional career. He was originally projected to be a 5th-round pick by Sports Illustrated, but as we saw here, he was drafted in a 7th-round pick, 249. There were 6 Gamecocks of South Carolina players drafted, including Stephon Gilmore, Melvin Ingram, Alshon Jeffrey, Rocavius Watkins, and Antonio Allen, and like I said, Robertson. After in 2014, he was signed to the Falcons practice squad. Then also in 2014, the Seattle Seahawks signed him off of the Atlanta Falcons practice squad on November 18th, 2014. On December 26th, he was released by the Seahawks. He was then immediately claimed off of waivers by the Washington Redskins. And then, on September 5th, 2015, he was waived for final roster cuts before the start of the regular season. And this here was the end of his NFL career. As it turns to regular season statistics, he had 5 total tackles. So, we look at pick 250. Edwin Baker, running back on Michigan State. This was done by the San Diego Chargers. He's 29 years old. He's from Highland Park, Michigan. He went to school at Oak Park High School in Oak Park, Michigan. He is 5'8" and was 215 pounds at the time of this measurement. Now we're going to go straight to professional career because that's the information that's represented. He was, however, a Big Ten champion at Michigan State in 2010 and was first team All Big Ten by the media also in 2010. After his professional career, he was selected in 2012 draft by the Chargers with pick 250, as I said earlier. On August 25th, 2013, he was released by the Chargers. The Cleveland Browns then signed him on December 10th, 2013 off of the Houston Texans practice squad where he was after his release by the Chargers. In his debut for the Browns against the Chicago Bears, he scored his first touchdown. Even though the Browns lost that game, it's good that he scored his first touchdown in his debut, which can be a start because things to come. In just 3 games, Baker finished third in rushing yards and tied for the team lead in rushing touchdowns with 2. However, on August 25th, 2014, he was released by the Browns. He was then picked up on the Saints practice squad and was then moved onto the active roster in October of 2014 after 2 season-ending injuries to two of their running backs. He was then released on September 5th, 2015. Then, he signed with the Toronto Argonauts of the Canadian Football League on January 19th, 2016. Then on June 19th, about 4 months later, he was released by the Argonauts. And that is the end of his football career. That is his total stats: 44 rushing attempts for 173 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. He also had 8 receptions for 57 yards. Please be aware the stats came from NFL.com, and these are regular season stats. These do not include the preseason. Just made that clear. With pick 251, the Buffalo Bills select John Potter, kicker from Western Michigan. He is 30 years old, from Kalamazoo, Michigan. He went to Grand Haven High School in Michigan and went to school, like I said earlier, in Western Michigan. As for his college career, he left Western Michigan as the all-time leader in career points with 333. He had 57 consecutive point-after touchdowns, also on his PATs made in a season with 57, and consecutive PATs in his career with 129. This is also a Mid-American Conference, which is the conference that Western Michigan is aligned with. That is their record. He also has 36 touchbacks his senior season, which ranks 3rd in the nation. He holds the school record for tackles by kicker with 36, so he was not a person who was afraid to come downfield and cover his own kicks. In addition, he also scored a rushing touchdown on a failed field goal, ran a 2-point conversion, and recovered 2 fumbles on kickoff coverage. He was named 3rd team All-MAC in his junior and senior season. He was a Conference Special Team Player of the Week 4 times and was the first team Academic All-American senior season and graduated summa cum laude. He signed, as I said, he was drafted by the Bills, pick 251 in the 2012 NFL draft. He was a kickoff specialist, which is the person who doesn't know is a kicker who only deals with doing kickoffs. He is not the primary field goal kicker. He just deals with kickoffs. He has 13 touchbacks on 26 kickoffs, which is very good. But he was, however, released on November the 6th. On June 12, 2013, he signed with the Washington Redskins. He was then released on August 26, 2013. The Redskins re-signed him after injury to their incumbent kicker on September 14th. He made 3 out of the 4 field goals that he was required to make in 3 games. He was then released along with Philip Merling in order to make room for the reinstatement of 2 other players. He was then signed by Detroit Lions at the end of the 2013 season to a futures contract and was then released on May 12, 2014 by the Lions. He then signed with Miami Dolphins after the team's first 2014 preseason game. He was 3 for 3 in field goals, including kicks of 48 and 51 yards respectively. He got injured in preseason and the Dolphins waived him on August 25, 2014. And that appears to be the end of his football career. No. Pick 252. Daryl Richardson, running back, Abilene Christian. This pick was conducted by the St. Louis Rams. Mr. Richardson is from Vernon, Texas. He is 5'10" and weighed 200 pounds. He went to Sandalwood High School in Jacksonville, Florida. As for his college career, he first attended a junior college, Cisco College, in 2008. He rushed for 526 yards and 7 touchdowns on 95 attempts. He then transferred to Abilene Christian, where he attended from 2009 to 2011. He appeared in 34 games with 23 starts for the Wildcats. He amassed 2,300 yards on 453 carries and 34 touchdowns. On his professional career, he signed a 4-year contract worth $2.15 million with the Rams. He played in all 16 games in his rookie season, gaining 475 rushing yards on 98 attempts, as well as 24 receptions for 163 yards. His best performance came in Week 2 of the regular season against the Washington Redskins, when he rushed 15 times for 83 yards and scored on a 2-point conversion. He was then waived by the Rams on May 15, 2014. He was claimed off of waivers by the Jets a day later, however was released on August 30, 2014. He then signed on the team's practice squad the next day. He was signed to a reserve futures contract on December 30, 2014. The Jets released him as part of their final roster cuts following the 2015 season. He then signed with the Houston Texans practice squad on September 23, 2015, but was then released on October 20th. The Texans again signed him back to their practice squad on October 20th, 2015. After the conclusion of that season, he signed with the Cleveland Browns. He was added for 2 games after being signed. The Browns waived him on December 20th, 2015. On January 20th, 2016, the Pittsburgh Steelers signed him to a reserve futures contract. He was released by the Steelers on September 29th, 2016, and was signed to the Steelers practice squad on October 3rd. He was promoted to the active roster on November 19th, 2016. He was then subsequently released on December 24th, 2016. He was then claimed off of waivers by Jacksonville Jaguars, who then released him on May 1st, 2017. September 2nd. Hold on, I'm making this. Sorry, let's pretend that didn't happen. On May 1st, he was released by the Jaguars. He then signed with the Colts, who released him on September 2nd, 2017. On January 30th, 2019, 2 years after that, he made a professional football comeback, signing with the San Antonio Commanders of the Alliance of American Football, which was a spring professional league which now sadly defunct. He was then released as part of the final training camp cuts. And now, Mr. Irrelevant. He was drafted by the Indianapolis Colts, Chandler Harnish, quarterback at Northern Illinois University. Mr. Harnish is 32 years old. He was born in Bluffton, Indiana. I went to Asinian Norwell High School, also Indiana. And like I said, went to school in Northern Illinois. He is 6'1" and weighed 223 pounds. He was the Mid-Atlantic Conference Most Valuable Player in the year 2011. He was first team MAC, Mid-Atlantic Conference, 2010. He was the Offensive Player in 2011, and like I said, he was the Mr. Irrelevant, or the last pick in the NFL draft in 2012. When it comes to his professional career, he was released on October 16th after being active for the first 5 regular season games. He was re-signed to the team's practice squad 2 days later. He did not take part in any more team games for the rest of the season. During preseason of the next year, he competed for the backup quarterback spot against veteran quarterback Matt Hasselbeck. He was waived, however, but was signed to the team's practice squad. At the end of that season, he resigned to a reserve futures contract on January 14, 2014, and was expected to be the backup to quarterback Andrew Luck. However, that did not take place, and he was released on August 30th, 2014. He then signed with the Minnesota Vikings, who was placed on their practice squad after there were injuries to quarterbacks Matt Castle and Teddy Bridgewater. He was placed on the active roster after Bridgewater, who got injured again, so he became the backup to quarterback Christian Ponder. He was waived the next day. On October 7th, he was re-signed to practice squad after another quarterback, Michael Bessel Thompson, was released. On December 16th, he was then released by the Vikings. He was then signed by the Arizona Cardinals on March 31st, 2015. During the 2015 NFL Draft, he had the pleasure of reading the name of another Mr. Relevant 2015, Gerald Christian, who when it gets to 2015 season, I will speak about him. He was then released by the Cardinals on August 8th, 2015, and is at the end of his NFL career. Now, here comes the interesting part. As we see here, all of these players had little to no success in the NFL. So when it comes to actually deciding who has the most success, this is the question which is thing. And I believe is my opinion, that the answer is Mr. Edwin Baker. For the simple fact that this is a person who came in, first of all, he was on NFL or CFL teams, several of them, 6 professional football teams over the course of his pro career, which lasted about 4 years. He also came on to a Cleveland Browns roster and ended up being third in rushing yards and tied for a team lead in rushing touchdowns with 2. Well, yes, the Browns were bad. The fact that a person who was only signed on December 10th was able to then go and play the rest of that season and was third in the team on rushing yards and led the team or tied for leading on the team in rushing touchdowns is monumental. And I think based on that, he is the best player. He had the best career to the last 5 picks in 2012 NFL draft. Now before I go, let me just have a little glossary for some things that you might not be familiar with. Like I said, MSC stands for Mid-Atlantic Conference. A reserve future contract is a contract that players, typically those who are on the bubble of making the roster, or those that were on the practice squad, sign with the team guaranteeing that they will be around up until next season's training camp. This is a way for them to get around going through free agency and just signs with the team, which says that they'll be on the team's 90-man training camp roster. Now for the practice squad. The practice squad is a place where players, typically younger players who cannot immediately make a 53-man roster, are a place where they develop on the team. They work alongside the team all players, and typically during practice, they either run scout team, which means that they will emulate players that their normal team is supposed to play either next week or the week after is running. So say the Buccaneers are playing the Bears. The Buccaneers practice squad will be running plays that the Chicago Bears will typically do, so that the Buccaneers defense gets familiar with what the Bears are doing. Now, like I said before, I'm going to continue doing this all up until 2018. I will leave 2019-2020 alone for the time being. And like I said, I'm thinking that after I finish that, I will then do the same for the NHL and the NBA. Like I said, I'll not be doing the MLB because the MLB has a very long draft and there's very little information on some of the later round selections. So like I said, good night, stay tuned, and I'll see y'all next time. ZAD Hoy.